This is Zach with 88.3 The Sting, WBWC Cleveland's modern rock alternative, joined with ILUKA here today. How are you doing today?
Good, good. I'm doing really well.
That's good to hear. So, I just wanted to ask if you could tell me a little bit about yourself and where you grew up.
So I, where to begin? So I grew up a little bit outside of Sydney in an area called the Blue Mountains, and I spent a lot of time growing up on a big property with lots of green rolling hills and horses. And my dad built guitars. He's got a workshop up there, which is amazing. So I think from early on, I had not much choice really. I was kind of it was always going to be music for me. I think with my dad, and I think as well, growing up on such beautiful property and having a lot of space as a kid, I think that does make a really big difference in terms of just having the space to be creative and not yeah, do things in my own time. And I'd go off and like create my own little worlds. And I was so deep in my imagination as a kid, and I think that when I look back on it, that was such a big part of the starting of my music, and being able to feel totally free to create what I want to create in my own time. Um, so yeah, I do think growing up in that space with definitely a musical father was a big part of my music development, I guess, as a kid.
Yeah, that's great. I was going to ask you a little bit about your inspiration for becoming a musician, but it sounds like it was your father. Um, so, did
Yeah,
did you want to talk about that at all, a little more in depth?
yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, as a kid, there was always guitars around, and he had this little 12-track recording desk that he would write songs on and record. So even when I was tiny, 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 I was watching him make music. And I remember as a 4 year old, I would sit on the piano. We had a piano. And I would sit on the piano and come up with these like nonsensical ditties. I obviously couldn't play at that time, so I would kind of just up with these like little funny rhymes. Um, and I remember both my parents being really encouraging of that, and they were like, "Sing us your new, little rhyme." And I always felt very proud of proud of them, and would do little performances. Um, and then it wasn't until I think I was seven, and I first put a full recorded song down with my dad. So I I don't know how it kind of came about, but I guess I was always writing lyrics. I've always carried little notebooks and diaries around with me. And I guess I must have just told him that I'd written a song that I actually wanted to record. And so he put all the instruments down, and I recorded this song as a 7 year old. So I feel really lucky. And then from that time, it was just lots and lots and lots of songs. I have albums and albums and albums worth of material that I recorded with dad. So I feel really lucky that I was able to find. I think for some artists that I speak to, the studio can be a bit of a stressful place, or a place they don't feel fully creative. It's kind of a space where you've got to go and get the stuff done, and then get out kind of thing. But I really love the studio, and I feel really at home um, there, and I find it to be a really creative space. And I think that's, yeah, from getting into it when I was so young, but also just having it as it was a really happy place that I would make music with my dad. So I really love the studio. So I feel really lucky to have had that as a kid, because I know a lot of musicians don't always get that support from their parents, and it really does make the world of difference.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. Love that. So I want to talk a little bit about your album. So we play your song "Higher Love," and it's one of my favorites. We love it here at the Sting. But you have your debut album, "Queen of Turbulent Hearts," that's out now. It just came out last month, and I just wanted to hear a little bit about the process of creating that and what like this if there's a story with it.
Yeah, this album, so the whole process of making it, really, is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, like because it was your debut album. So what was it like to put that together?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this record, in all honesty, it was a bit of a mess to put together because of something called COVID, and plans being destroyed. But I'm so proud of it and where it ended up. So I spent a lot of time in LA and Nashville actually in 2019, writing with a lot of different writers, which was kind of the first time I'd done that. Before that, I'd been a very um, solo songwriter. I would sit in my room and write songs, and not until it was completed, I would go out and share it with the band. So I, yeah, spent a lot of time. A lot of High Love actually was written in Nashville, on with a couple of my favorite writers from there. But it was the first time that I'd really, yeah, invited other people into the songwriting process, and I think it really pushed me into getting to the real stuff. Like, I think when you're writing with someone that you work with, it they're pulling out all the little bits that you wouldn't sometimes reach or get to without them. So, they'll look at a line and say, what exactly are you trying to say there? What are you trying to say? Let's like get down to the nitty gritty. Like, what are you trying to say? So I really found that it pushed my songwriting further than it could kind of, I really feel like I developed and grew, from working with so many amazing people. So that was kind of, there was a lot of songs that were written during that time. It was a really creative time, all demos. And yeah, I was feeling super inspired. I guess I'd come out of a heartbreak, so there was a lot of that coming into it, but also moving into this like beautiful new time. So there was heartbreak as well as hope, as well as I kind of lingering. I think on the record, there's always to break. A lot of young people today do feel this kind of existential anxiety about the state of the world, and so I think songs like that tap into to to that kind of notion. So it was this whole, so many feelings that I'm tapping into in the record. And then, of course, COVID happened. So I came back to Australia. I was meant to go back to America and finish the record off with a producer, but got stuck in Australia. So we ended up kind of pulling all the pieces together via correspondence. So I was working with a producer in America while I was in Australia, and surprisingly, it worked. So I just redid a lot of the vocals, and we pulled all the songs all together and wrote a few new songs. But the whole process, it was really interesting. I felt lucky that I could still work with who I wanted to work with, but it was tricky at times. You just wanted to be in a room with someone, and yeah, we kind of just had to do it that way. But I'm really proud of where we ended up, and I think the energy that comes with those songs is, yeah, it's a product of the time that it was kind of created in. So yeah, I'm really really stoked about the album.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Definitely COVID and everything, I'm sure put a halt on that, but it's good to see that you have the debut album out now, and leads into what I was going to talk about next is what are your plans for like the next year, with your music? Are you doing any tours? Are you working on more albums or singles?
Yeah, so I'm back in Australia. I'm still in Australia. So I've just done a tour over here with a band, an Australian band, which was awesome. And I'm just about to go and do my own shows here in a couple of weeks, which is exciting. And then I'm coming back to the States. So in late July, I'll be over and we'll hopefully be doing some shows, more writing, and I guess starting work on album number 2.
That's great. Are you planning on doing shows like in Nashville again? Are you going to Nashville again? It's great. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So who other than your father, who are your other biggest musical inspirations?
I think I think artists like Patti Smith and Joni Mitchell, even Nick Cave, Leonard Cohen, a lot of artists that have. I mean, I think of Patti Smith especially as someone who's her music is just a product of this lifestyle that she lives. She's such a you can just tell that the creative life is just what she lives every day, and music is just a product of that. And I find her and her writing, especially because I'm also a writer, and I think Patty's writing and poetry, her music, she is so connected to the creative flow of life, that it's very inspiring. So definitely people like Patti Smith, and she's kind of just always done what she wants. It seems anyway. She's just followed her own gut and just done what she's needed to do. And I think also songwriters like Joni Mitchell, it always seems like she's just done what she wants to do as well, following the muse. And when she wants to write an obscure jazz record, she writes an obscure jazz record, even when she's at the height of her fame. And she's just done what she's wanted to do, no matter what the industry says, no matter what her team tells her to do. So I think definitely artists like that are hugely inspiring. I mean, I love a lot of the, Nina Simone and Ella Fitzgerald, and I've also always been attracted to, like, especially female vocalists that have this really distinct voice. And I think, artists like Nina, especially, I adore her voice, and anything she sings is full of, it's just, she's got her own voice. Even, Janis Joplin, and I love her voice as well. So I'm definitely always attracted to female vocalists, particularly that have a really distinct voice.
It's very cool. Yeah. Um, that's great. And I was also wondering, let's see. So you talked about your tour and how you just finished that with another band. So what's it like performing for a live audience? Because obviously with COVID, not having the opportunity to do that for a few years, but what's that feeling? What's your favorite part about doing that?
Oh, it's like being home again. It's amazing. I even played a festival recently, and I was just beaming the whole time. I just could not stop beaming because I felt so grateful to be there. I felt so grateful to have that experience. And there's nothing like it. There's really nothing like it. There's nothing like that energy that you get as a musician and a performer when you're on stage and you're feeling that electricity from the audience. There's nothing like it. And I really, really miss that. As much as I love the recording and writing process, I love performing. I love being up in front of people, and that's so much a part of what I do. And I really missed it. So to be playing shows again is, I feel so grateful. And I think I feel it in the audience as well, that everyone's been through it, right? So the audience are like so grateful to be there too. And I really feel it, this kind of excitement between everyone working on the events, whether it's behind the scenes, the roadies, everyone's just so excited to be back.
Yeah, that's great. Definitely music festivals are a great experience. And I'm sure for you being able to do that after so long was just such a good time. So our listeners obviously can find you here on The Sting, but where else can they find you, on social media or other platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. Every every platform all the platforms under ILUKA Music. So yeah, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Spotify, all ILUKA Music.
That sounds great. And I just want to ask you if there's anything else you wanted to share with our listeners.
Um, Mainly just like thank you for connecting with the record. Thank you for supporting it. It just means so much to know that it's connecting.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, this is ILUKA here on 88.3 The Sting. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.